You are recording.
Are we ready? Well, it was a Saturday afternoon. Probably about like this Saturday afternoon. And I was walking down the street in Sweetwater, Texas. And I saw this sign up on the post office. It was a sign of this old man with a beard on it. It says, "Uncle Sam wants you." And I looked at that and I thought, hey, maybe Uncle Sam wants me. So I go up and I talk to these two non-commissioned officers. And they said, "Oh yes, we want you." And so I filled out some papers and I took them home to go into the Army. And my mama and daddy had a fit, because I was going to leave and go in the Army. I told, well, I was going to leave anyway. I was going somewhere. I wasn't going to stay on that farm all my life. I was taking off and going somewhere. So they finally, they had to sign the papers for me to go in the service. So they relented, and I went and I got on this train, and I traveled all night long from Sweetwater, Texas to El Paso, Texas.
Were you 18?
I was 18 years old, just past 18. And I got to El Paso in this big old 6x6 truck backed up there. And there's several of us guys on that train all going to join the Army. See the world. They took us out to El Paso, to Fort Bliss. And they fed us breakfast. And we could order anything we wanted. So just whatever you want, you can have. Just however you want it fixed. Whatever kind of eggs you want. Upside down, over easy. Whatever kind of bacon you want. Canadian bacon, American bacon, ham, whatever you want. You just order. Cereal, milk, half and half, cream. Oh, man, this is a life. And what's more, they served it to you. You didn't have to stand in line to get it. They'd bring it to the table and serve it to you.
Papa, what year was this?
1940.
1940?
1940.
Were only men in the military at that time?
Only men were in the military at that time.
Okay.
Only volunteers were in the service at that time.
Okay.
And I thought, oh, this is the life. Just eat whatever you want, order whatever you want, and they bring you whatever you want right to your table. So we ate breakfast, and then said, well, we'll have to all go over and get sworn in. So and they said, once you got sworn in, you could pick whatever service that you wanted to go to. So we went over and got sworn in. And then after we were sworn in, well, they said, you, and you, and you, you're in the tank corps. You, and you, and you, you're in the infantry. You, and they pointed at me and said, you're in the cavalry. I didn't want to be in the cavalry. I just left horses on the farm, and I wanted to get away from horses. I didn't want to be in no cavalry. But they said, well, you sworn in and you're in the Army now. You're whatever we tell you to be, and you're in the cavalry.
So you got to choose to be in the Army.
You didn't get to choose.
I thought they just told you could
they
choose.
Were lying.
Oh.
Once you were sworn in, they said what you were going to be, and they were lying.
Oh.
That's what they were doing. They were lying. And then after that, after you were sworn in and after they assigned you to the branch of the service you were going to be in, no more did you get to order what you wanted at breakfast. You ate whatever they thrown out at you for breakfast. And no more. You stood in a line with a mess kit and got it, just threw something on your mess kit and you eat whatever they put out. No more ordering special stuff.
Tricky.
Yeah, tricky. They were tricky. And so now I'm in the cavalry. But I kind of learned to like it. I didn't really mind it that much. And we trained, went on maneuvers, and rode horses up in New Mexico and out on the plains of Texas around El Paso, and then to put horses on the big trucks and hauled them to Louisiana and went clear into Louisiana on maneuvers and rode horses down in Louisiana. Then one day I was riding this horse along, and this non-commissioned officer came up, tapped me on the shoulder and said the captain wanted to see me. And So, what in the world, the captain? So, went back to see the captain. And he said, well, there's another guy there, and this other guy's name was Little. And I thought that was interesting.
Captain Little?
No, this it was just another guy like me. He wasn't the captain, but it was two of us. He says, "What?" Says, I have an order that I have to send a man to Leavenworth, Kansas, to weaponry school, and so you two, I picked you two, but only one of you can go, and we're gonna flip this coin, and one of you call this coin when I flip it, and the one that wins the flip gets to go to Leavenworth to the military weaponry school. And I won the flip. So I packed all my stuff in my ditty bag, and they put me on a truck and took me into well, something down in Louisiana, and I forget the name of it. And then I got on this train, and man, I'm really, really up there and high stuff in the military. I get to ride, and I get a what do they call them? Where you a sleeper car, where you have a bed, and have all this fancy silver and all this fancy crystal and stuff whenever they serve you, and you order whatever you wanted to on the train, and they served it to you. This big black guy, he came and served it to you. And that was pretty good stuff. I really liked that. And I rode all the way across Louisiana and back across Texas and over into Kansas, and then I went to school. I went to school at Leavenworth, Kansas for training for weapons artificer. And then they come around, and while I was there, and they said they were selecting some people to go to West Point, and volunteers to go to West Point, and I could go to West Point if I wanted to go to West Point. But you had to sign up for 6 years in the military, and in that 6-year period, you never could get married. And so I didn't think I liked that, so I went ahead and finished the artificer school. And then...
Had you already met Nana?
No.
Okay.
No, and I went back to El Paso. After I went to school, I went back to El Paso at the Fort Bliss. And I stayed there. And then after a while, well, they decided to ship us overseas. So we left all of our horses we'd been training on. We had 20,000 horses. We left all them at Fort Bliss. Now we became just like infantry, like foot soldiers. And they shipped us to San Francisco, and they put us on this big boat. And we were 14 days aboard this big boat going to Brisbane, Australia. We got into Brisbane, Australia on a Sunday afternoon.
You took a boat all the way to Australia?
14 days.
Was it a big boat?
We had 10,000 men aboard it.
Wow.
It was a big boat. They had bunks stacked up 4 high. And every compartment in it.
How big was one bunk? Or I mean one little like cabin that used the sleep room, like this room, like half this room?
It was about half this room and about 12 men to each room.
Do you remember the men? Did you meet any men there that you remember?
Yeah, I remember some of the men. I remember Jesse W. Stanley. That he became one of my best buddies. And that's probably about the only one I really remember his name. Oh, I remember a guy by the name of Combs, but I don't remember what it. And I remember another guy that they called Wendy, and he talked all the time. He never stopped talking, and he was a big show-off. And so then when we got into Brisbane, Australia, and we went into training in Brisbane. And Brisbane is just completely opposite in the weather conditions to where we are here in Phoenix. And because in July it's wintertime, snow comes in July in Australia. It's just the opposite of what it is here. And so as soon as we got into Australia, it didn't take long because the country was covered about 6 inches of snow. And so we stayed in Australia until after the first of the year, 1941. Then we shipped out, got on this big boat, and we shipped out to New Guinea. And went to Oral Bay, New Guinea. And we trained there a little bit. And I think I told you a story about where the bomb was dropped there and I lost my tennis shoe. I think we recorded that already, and I dug my hole deeper and deeper and deeper. And
Tell it.
And so I volunteered to go up to Finschhafen, New Guinea. And I went up to Finschhafen. We was unloading the trucks as they come in with all the supplies on them. And they told us to dig holes because the Japs might come over and bomb us, so the slit trenches to sleep in at night, so we'd be down protected in case a bomb started dropping. I dug me a hole about just deep enough that I could get my body down below the ground, and because I didn't want to put out the labor to dig anymore. So then I went to this movie, and we had a outdoor movie theater, had this big screen set up right on the beach. We had these coconut logs cut down, and we sit on those coconut logs and watch the movies. And it was real dark, and all these ships was out in the bay, and these planes were coming in, and a Jap plane had followed our planes in, tailed them in at night in the dark, and he dropped a bomb. And when this bomb went off, all the fire and the flame went off, and the big boom, boom, boom. And I just rolled backwards off this log, and I started crawling just on my hands and knees, and I crawled over under this 6x6 truck, and I lost one of my tennis shoes. And I still haven't found my tennis shoe to this day. But I took off, and I went back to our camp area, and I got my shovel, and I started digging. And I dug, and I dug, and I dug. And then the next day, I got me a saw, and I cut these coconut logs, and I put them over my hole I dug down. And then I got me some gunny sacks, and I filled them with dirt. And I put these gunny sacks filled with dirt on top of my coconut logs. I must have dug down 4 or 5 feet in my hole, 4 or 5 feet deep. And then I dug back in the bank and made me a shelf in my hole, so I could put my sleeping bag up on that shelf and sleep up there. And Japs couldn't get me if they come and bombed. And they could drop one right by the side of my hole, and I probably wouldn't have got any shrapnel from it. So I stayed there a while, and then we went back to Oral Bay, and we shipped out from there to Bismarck Archipelago. And we went up to Los Negros Island, and we ran the Japs out of Los Negros Island. And then we went over to contiguous island, which is called Manus Island, and we run them out of Manus Island. And then we went into bivouac there a bit, in preparation to go for the big fella for the invasion of the return to the Philippines. And then in November of 1944, we made the invasion of Leyte Island. And I was on one of the first waves that went into Leyte Island whenever we returned to the Philippines. And the first night, they told us that the Japs would probably try and counterattack that night. So I didn't pay much attention to it. And I just didn't even clean my machine gun. And it was raining, and it was muddy, and I was tired, and I was sleepy, and I was hungry. So I didn't even clean my machine gun. And that night the Japs attacked. And one of them was his bayonet, and he came, heard me whenever I was trying to get my machine gun to fire, which had mud in it, and I couldn't get it to put a cartridge in the battery position. And so he heard me over there and he started attacking my foxhole I was in too. And one of my buddies, his name was Combs, said that he shot this jump, and he fell dead right at the foot of my hole. But a bunch of them was just wounded, and they lay out there all the rest of the night and groaning and going, ooh, oh, oh.
Nobody killed him?
The next morning, one of the lieutenants went out and shot them all, the ones that was wounded in the head, and killed the rest of them. And we took off, and the next night on that island, got just about daylight, and this big flight of Japanese Betty bombers came over, and they were going to bomb our ships. Our ships that was out in the harbor. And there's a bunch of F-4F Grumman Wildcats went after them and shot all of them down but one. One crashed on one of our ships out in the bay and set it afire. That's the rest of them were those F-4F Grumman Wildcats, shot them right out of the sky. And we watched them. I thought it was really interesting watching those dogfights up there shooting those Betty bombers out of the sky. And we went on, and after we run the jumps off of Lady, and we went over.
Hello? No, call Lisa. I'm in the middle of video shooting. Yeah, I don't care. Phone. What time is it doing? Love you, gotta go. You're ruining my sleep. Goodbye. Okay. Sorry.
And we left Lady and went over onto another island. Right now, the name of that other island leaves my brain. But then we made preparations for the invasion of Luzon, and that's where the benches of Japs were. And when I went to Luzon, I landed at Corregidor, and this bunch of our ships had been sunk. You could still see them sticking up after of them sticking up in the air where they went nose down in that bay there at Corregidor. And then I went on to Luzon, and we had this big ammunition dump after Japs was all run out of Manila and running away. It was in the hills and caves in the hills, and we had this big ammunition dump set up. This ammunition dump was stacked as high as a house, a couple of 100 yards long and as wide as a house. And we was making preparation. We was going to go and attack those caves in those mountains where these Japs had these big artillery pieces. And about 10 o'clock in the morning, well, they'd been firing over us, way over us, and must have been a mile over us that they were firing. But this morning they started firing closer and closer to our ammunition dump. And so I was running to jump in this hole, and I heard this shell coming. And it was whistling. I could hear it whistling, and I knew it was going to get me before I got in this foxhole. It was going, and it hit about less than 6 feet right in front of me. And I saw it as it drove into the dirt and threw the dirt into the gravel, into the air, and blew up, and all the fire and stuff. And a piece of it went through my left leg and knocked my legs out from under me. I fell forward. I thought I would have fell backwards, but knocked my legs out from under me, and I fell forward. It knocked my left leg and femur completely into it right above my left knee. So I crawled over in this slip trench where a couple of my buddies were and told them that I said some bad cuss words at these Japs that they'd blown my leg off. And they took a shoulder half and tore it up and made a tourniquet because I was losing quite a bit of blood. And they made a tourniquet and put it around my leg and gave me some Atterman pills and a cigarette. I could see this ambulance is dug in. I could see about half of his Red Cross on the side of him. Now, man, if his Japs just stopped this shelling, that ambulance could come get me. This war is over for me, and I'd be leaving this outfit. And I heard these planes roaring coming. I didn't know if they was Jap planes or our planes, but they came right over the top of us. And you could see they were our planes, they were our P-38s. And they had rockets strapped under their wings where they could push a button and launch them electronically. And it looked like they was going to fly right in the mouth of those caves where those Japs were. Just before they got to them, they released those rockets. And once looked like they threw in the afterburners and went straight up in the air over that mountain. Just left a string of smoke behind them as they threw in their afterburners. And they just blew them holes right up, them Japs holes right up in that mountain. And whenever they did, Ed Evans turned on his siren. All my buddies started running around me hollering, "When you get back to San Francisco, call my girlfriend. Call this number. Call my girlfriend. Tell them you just saw me. Tell them where I'm at." And some of them give me their numbers to call. And his ambulance had turned on his siren. They came up and they picked me up. And they got me a shot of morphine. And I don't remember no more till the next morning.
Did you end up calling everybody's girlfriends? That was nice of you.
And then the next morning, when I woke up, well, this colonel was standing beside of my bed. And he said, "Morning, soldier," says, "you want to go to Manila or you want to have breakfast?" I said, "Well, first thing I want to know is what you do with my leg." He said, "Well, your leg's still on your body." I thought he was lying to me because I didn't know how they left the leg like that, because I could turn my toes right around where my heel was, my heel right where my bone was severed completely in two, and how that's going to save my leg. Finally, I got up enough courage to look down. I had a body cast on me completely from my feet clear up under my shoulders all the way. So I finally looked down over that cast and I could see my toes. And I figured, well, if I had toes, and my leg must still be hooked to me. So there's a little bitty plane sitting right outside of that tent, a little L-40. And it was just big enough that just the pilot and me on a stretcher could ride in it. So I said, "Well, I want to go to Manila. I don't want to have breakfast." So a couple of guys got me on a stretcher, went out and let the side of that plane down and set my stretcher inside that plane and locked the side of the plane up. And the pilot jumped in and cranked her up and took right off on the sand on the beach. And we flew to Manila. We got to Manila and they put me in a hospital. And they started giving me blood. They said they gave me 13 pints of blood and a blood transfusion the next 3 days. But that night when we got to Manila, the Japs parachuted down on top of the hospital. The guards on the hospital shot them all. They didn't do any damage to us. So then they told me they was going to put a traveling cast on me and send me back to the States. So they put me to sleep and they put a cast on me. And I woke up, and I wasn't in the States. I was back on Lady Island in a great big old tent, and there was hundreds of guys in there that were way worse than I was. They were really, some of them in there really bad. Some of them died. Some of them had their arms. Some of them their legs blown off. Some of them metal in their heads. But I stayed there for 8.5 weeks, and they drilled a hole through my leg, right below my knee, and they put a clevis in there with a pin in it. And they tied a rope in that clevis, and they ran it up over some pulleys over the end of the bed and put 48 pounds of rock on it. And I lay right on my back for all those weeks with that 48 pounds of rock hanging on my leg on that pulley, while it set my leg and waiting for the bones to grow back together. And every 4 hours they give me a shot of penicillin. Every 4 hours, 24 hours a day, 24/7, for all that time, 8 weeks and a half that I lay there. They give me a shot of penicillin. And that's the only thing that saved my leg and keep it from having to be amputated. 8.5 weeks says, well, they're going to send me back to the States. So they took me over and they put me to sleep, and they put a traveling cast on me. And this time, sure enough, they're going to send me to the States. So they put me on a plane. The plane took off in a big storm. It was lightning and thundering, and lightning hit the plane, knocked out a generator, so we had to go back and land and put a new generator on it. Then it took off again, and we landed in Phoenix Island.
Phoenix
Island.
Island.
And I got the first fresh eggs that I had eaten in 2 years. And oh, I ate so many fresh eggs. Then they serviced the plane, and then they put me back on the plane, and they flew me to Guam. And the plane landed on Guam Island to service it again. And I had a brother that was on Guam, so I told them, they put us in a holding tent there while they serviced the plane. And I told this nurse that I had a brother there. And she called his unit. And in a little minute, this Jeep pulled up outside of this tent where I was out on this bed waiting for him to put me back on the plane to take me to the States. And my brother was on this Jeep, so he come in to see me. Then he helped load me on the plane.
What brother?
Arnold. And he helped me load me on the plane, the stretcher to put me on the plane when I was coming home. Big old tears were dripping down off his cheeks because I'm coming home and he's not coming home.
Were you relieved to be going home?
Oh yeah, I was happy to be going home.
You were.
But I told him, I said, don't worry, and you'll be out of here by Christmas time because we got them little nips whipped. Of course, I didn't have any idea at that time that they was going to drop the atom bomb on them and end the war. But I just knew that we just about had them defeated anyway. So I left, and the plane landed in the Hawaiian Islands. And this guy in the Hawaiian Islands, he told me, and I got two of the most beautiful sisters in the United States in Palm Springs, California, and they're going to send you to Palm Springs in the hospital there. You call them up, tell them to come see you whenever you get down there. So they sent me to San Francisco. And then when I got to San Francisco, for free you could call anybody you wanted to. So I called home and told my family that I was back in the States. And
Did they know that anything that had happened?
they got a telegram that I'd been injured, but they didn't know how bad I'd been injured. And and I called them up and talked to them. And then I stayed there for a while. And then they sent me to Palm Springs. Sure enough, to Palm Springs. Well, they owned a great big hotel in Palm Springs, California. So one of these girls came out to see me and brought me a great big old box of candy. And she was a doll, all right. And so after I was in Palm Springs in the hospital for 6 months. And finally, I got to where I could walk around a little bit on crutches, and they put a big brace on my leg. Big metal brace that went all the way down on my leg, down around my heels, and gave me these crutches and gave me a furlough, and I could come home. So my family had moved to Phoenix, moved from Texas to New Mexico, and from New Mexico up to Phoenix. So I came to Phoenix to see them then, and I got a furlough. And when I got home, I was shaving. I was in the bathroom shaving, and I looked at, and I was solid yellow. Oh, what's the matter with me? I'm so yellow. So I went out to the hospital to check out the hospital at Lukefield. And they said, oh man, you got yellow jaundice. So they put me on a high protein diet. And I stayed in the hospital till I got rid of the yellow jaundice. And whenever I got out of the hospital, my brothers, they took me, Jimmy and Joe, they were not in the service. They were too young to go in the service. So they took me back to Palm Springs. And then I got another furlough and came home. And while I was home with that furlough, well, I bought myself a car, a 39 Buick. And so my brothers took me back to Palm Springs in that 39 Buick. And they took my Buick back to Phoenix. And then my brother that was in Guam had helped put me on the plane when I left Guam coming back to the States. He had already got discharged and was home before I got discharged, and he used my 39 Buick to come pick me up when I got discharged in Palm Springs. And you know the rest of the story.
You want to finish it up on the tape or no? You're all good?
And, well, I think we got most of it about when then after Christmas, I started school over at Tempe, and then I met your Nana and got married to her. And that was 65 years ago. And here we are taping this 65 years later. And,
Pretty crazy. Papa, do you remember why you wanted to join the military? Was it just to get away, or was it for the country, or both?
well, I wanted to travel. I thought I would be able to travel and see a lot of the world that I'd never be able to see otherwise. And I thought that we was going to have a war. And I thought I was going to be a wild warrior, and I would be able to fight and whip some of the enemy. And I certainly wasn't afraid to fight. And as a matter of fact, that I wanted to go to the Philippines, and before that the Japs ever bombed Pearl Harbor. But at that time, I couldn't go overseas without my parents also signing a release for me to go. Even though I was in the military, I was not 21, so until I was 21, they had to sign. It was okay for me to go, and they would not sign for me to go to the Philippines, or I would have been in real dire trouble, because I'd have been in the Philippines whenever the Japs attacked the Philippines, and I'd have probably been on the death march whenever the Philippines fell.
Had you died, would you have thought it was a worthy cause, like worth it, you know? Like, did you believe in the war that much?
Oh, at that time, no doubt about it. I hated the enemy, and hated anybody that even thought about attacking the United States. I look at it different today with the military, with the political situation the way that it is, and I feel so sorry for the guys that's in Afghanistan and Iraq today, fighting the way that they got things screwed up. Because when we went in there to kill them and fight and win the war. And nobody says, well, you can't engage the enemy. If you saw the enemy, you killed the enemy, or you didn't even try to capture him. You just killed him. But it's different today. I mean,
they ended up lowering the age to 18. Now, do you think that was a good decision?
Well, I don't think you can go in today at 18 unless you get your parents' consent.
Really?
I don't know if you can or not. I know they've lowered the voting age to 18, where you can vote at 18, which I think is absolutely ridiculous, because I don't think an 18-year-old has the slightest idea about politics and who should be making decisions to run the country. I think it's one of the greatest mistakes that they ever made politically, is lowering the voting age to 18.
You have a grandson that has made his entire life in the military. What do you think about that? Are you proud of Michael?
Yeah, I think that's great. I think it's great that people that they want to do that. And I don't know if I wouldn't have got wounded, what position I might have taken at that time. I might have stayed in the military at that time.
Well, we're always proud of you for fighting, Papa. For defending the country and for the freedom.
Yeah, I'm very proud of my grandchildren and my great-grandchildren. And of course, you know what I think about your daddy. He's not only my son, but he's my best friend.
And he chose not to go into the military, even though he was drafted. What do you know about that?
What do I know about it? I know all about it, and I thought it was a wise thing for him to do, because at that time I didn't see any deal why we should be involved in any Southeast Asia at all. I didn't see any purpose for it. That was not going to attack the United States. I didn't see where we had any military or any political, any kind, and I couldn't at that time understand why we were there. And I thought they lied about why we was there. And I was really happy that he didn't go, because I didn't want him to go over and get his arms or his legs blown off for no reason.
Now, you don't have
I
to
didn't see any purpose for it.
you don't have to disclose anything you don't want to, but were you there the day his number got called? How did the draft work? The boys were given a number, then you watched TV at night and they called numbers at random?
Yeah, they would draw the numbers out of a jar, out of a big pot of numbers, put all these numbers in there and draw them out. And yeah, I was there whenever he was called.
Do you remember what his number was?
No, I don't. I doubt if he remembers what it was. But no, I didn't want him to go into any Vietnam, and because I didn't think they was fighting a just war. I don't think till the day this fight had 58,000 people killed, and I don't know what we gained there. We didn't gain any land. We didn't gain any political advantage. We didn't gain any bases. I didn't see why we were there.
My dad always said he felt like they were fighting a war that they had no business being in anyways.
I never thought they had any business being there. I never thought they had any business being in Korea whenever they went into Korea. And I thought that was a useless war. I don't know why they went into Korea. Why they went into now, of course, I can see and why they went into Afghanistan. I mean, they didn't have any.
The first time or both times?
Whenever the President Bush sent the boys into Afghanistan after the enemies blew up our 2 World Trade Center towers. I mean, what was he going to do? Just, what's okay? And just blow up the country. We don't care.
That war's been going on, what, Papa? 10 years.
And but I think it's been mishandled in the war. I think that they should have gone over there and ended the war like we did in the World War II. Went over there to end the war. And I think if we could whip all of Germany and all of Japan at the same time, tell me we can't whip a little old Afghanistan or a little old Iraq in less than 10 years. I think it's had to be a bunch of complete idiots that was making the calls for what they was going to do and winning those wars. I think we could win them, either one of them, in a couple of years' time, and no effort whatsoever.
Whose death were you happier about? Osama bin Laden or Hussein?
I think I was happy with both of them. Probably more so with bin Laden, but with both of them, certainly with both of them.
I love you, Pop.
I love you, darling. And but Hussein, I think once we got rid of Hussein, we should got out of Iraq right then, or either made Iraq pay us for all of the money we spent there, and the same with Afghanistan. And I can't see us spending billions of dollars and all the death we lost, and for nothing. I mean, what are we going to do? Walk away with nothing?
I remember in the beginning they had said that they wanted to help them build up their own government, but I think if that was even part of the reason, we've lost a lot of lives for, no business, we had any business being there.
As a matter of fact, George Bush, I heard him say it with his own lips on himself, not somebody said George Bush, and I heard him say it, we're not going to do ever nation building, and he did go in nation building.
Yeah.
So I fault him for that. Once it got through with Hussein, got him killed, They should have pulled right out right then, or either made them people pay all of the money that we spent in that war. And I would go with old Donald Trump. I would agree with him that each person that was killed there their family should have got $5 million, and they should have taken half the oil that's supplied with Iraq for free, to pay for what we've done to save their country from them.
Recently, they overturned the Don't Ask, Don't Tell. Do you think it makes any difference in the military whether you're allowed to be gay or not?
I think it's a big mistake to begin with. I don't think they had any reason in the world for having faggots in the military.
Even though they're men still fighting, their physical body?
I think it's a mistake because I certainly wouldn't want to be in a foxhole or in a tank and they get shot and their blood from them guys splattering all over me, and maybe they've got AIDS or something, and their blood or me handling them. And I think it's a big mistake. I don't think they should have been in the military, no.
You know, though, that even before, even though they couldn't talk about it, there was still probably a lot of homosexuals in the military.
Well, and as a matter of fact, I was in the military for 5 months, 5 years, 2 months, and 28 days, and I never knew one while I was there. I'm sure there might have been some there, but I never knew one there.
I tend to think men are stronger than women. Do you think women should be fighting out there?
Absolutely not. Now, I think that's one of our great assets of the world is our women, and a lot of people disagree with it, but my philosophy is women have no business being in the fighting in the military. They have a place that they want to be. It can be secretaries, it can be
Stay-at-home moms raising babies.
no, I think women there have always been a place for women in industry, and other than in the home, and they always have been. I think women certainly have a place. They don't have to just be stay-at-home mothers. I think, me personally, I favor stay-at-home mothers, but if they don't want to stay at home, and of course the society is different to what it was when I raised my family. The government has screwed things up in this tax deal so much that a lot of them have to work to support the families. But your Nana, she never had to work a single day in her lifetime in 65 years that we were married. And so my philosophy was I was supposed to make the living and support the family. She was supposed to take care of the domestic part of it, taking care of the family, which was just as important as my part of what I was doing. But there's been always women from the time I was born and long before I was ever born. Nurses. The women were nurses, and they left the home to work as nurses, which they had to have nurses. They left the home whenever they didn't have the sophisticated automated telephone deal. There's hundreds of thousands of telephone operators, waitresses, and of course, it certainly is the fact that women don't have the brain power to do it. That they have as much brain power, more probably than men do. They certainly have the brain power to do it. But I just think that there's a place for women and a place for men. And my philosophy towards women is they're in the home and they use the domestic part of it. And the man does making a living to supply the money that's needed for the family.
Anything else you want to talk about with the war? Is that pretty good?
I think that's pretty good.
All right.